is to try a ketogenic diet or a low carbohydrate diet is more likely to underconsume from past experience and things like that versus you put a male on a ketogenic low carb diet, their first thought might not be restriction. It might be like, okay, we're just changing the inputs and they may actually end up eating more potentially.
I think that's exactly it, Zach. So, I've had a number of discussions over the years with my good friend, Dr. Cliff Harvey, and he's, studied ketogenic diets. I think for his PhD, actually, this was like the topic of his PhD research. And he's dived into the literature, and I have as well. And what often happens is that when you, is that the potential deficits that a woman might experience on a ketogenic diet or a low carbohydrate diet are hard to disentangle from that from of low calorie, actually. And even if you look at research, and research might state that low carbohydrate diets are negative for a woman's energy availability, or for her energy availability is the prime example. If you follow the lead in terms of that literature, often they are referencing papers that are in fact looking at low calorie and not low carbohydrate. And I think that is certainly something to be mindful of when you're looking at some of the critique around a low carb approach or a ketogenic approach for women. There is research looking at sort of acute markers of bone health, and this is in both men and women. And it appears that a low carbohydrate diet might increase that bone turnover or bone breakdown. Bone is always turning over, but if you're not able to protect bone and have that sort of bone remodeling process protected, then there may be implications from a bone health perspective. But a lot of the research to date has just been on acute markers and not really sort of long-term effects. And we don't know whether an adaptation process needs to occur in order for these things to sort of be resolved or go back to normal. So I think some of that research just isn't there yet. Equally, to your point, culturally, and as I mentioned, like, women just can be in that restrictive mindset. And if you look at, and there probably isn't enough research looking at isocaloric diets that provide sufficient calories and what impact a ketogenic diet has versus a more standard approach, or even just a low carb diet, and what sort of health outcomes that these might have. And there is some mechanistic trials looking at changing hormone levels. There's a particular hormone called kisspeptin, which appears to be, and that helps in the production of estrogen, that appears to be downregulated with a low carbohydrate diet. But again, we don't know. Well, there's animal data to say that, so it's a preclinical trial. We don't know what the long-term impact is of this in a human clinical trial. And then there are like changes in thyroid markers, and T3 can be reduced on a low carbohydrate diet for both men and women. And some people would say that, well, maybe our system is just sort of doesn't require as much T3 or active thyroid hormone, so it becomes sensitized to the action of it on a ketogenic diet, so you don't need as much. But there's not a lot of research in that athlete space at this point in time. So I would say it's pretty up in the air, actually. And if you fix energy availability and ensure you've got enough energy, what is the overall impact of a low carb diet? I mean, I don't know that we necessarily have that answer.